Are they number one? Are they number two? At this point, it doesn't much matter. What matters is winning the SEC and moving on from there and playing a little bit better football down the stretch for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Talking Tide right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We got Stephen Smith on the line from Touchdown, Alabama. Stephen's right there at the complex following player interviews. Stephen, how you doing today?
Doing good, Mark. We got some rain here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, about 68 degrees, so a little bit warmer than where you are at right now, but Mother Nature providing us with a little rain today.
So I just took a little walk outside, headed down to the gym, and it was nice that we don't have a cloud in the sky. So anytime, Stephen, you understand you're in Alabama, I'm in Connecticut. Anytime I have the weather advantage over you, I'm going to capitalize on that.
Nothing like that out there.
Okay. Stephen, I think it works out really well when we can catch you right after player interviews, as we have a number of times this season. So your thoughts in regards to who you talked to, what they had to say, what really stood out to you today?
Well, it's really interesting getting a chance to talk to Landon Dickerson, Alabama center, who started at the center position this past week against Texas A&M for the second time. Really did a great job of making sure everybody up front knew the blocking schemes, protecting Tua Tagovailoa, and helping this rushing attack continue to grow. He actually came into interviews dressed up, not used to really seeing Landon Dickerson almost in a shooting top, a shirt and tie affair, but came in dressed up, looking sharp, but really spoke highly on continuing to grow at that center position. Also, Raekwon Davis, who's used to wearing a 3X sweatshirt, came in with a 1X sweatshirt on. So him kind of getting the hand-me-down appeal from probably one of his brothers, but came in with the 1X sweatshirt on, still smiling, talking about how much this defense is continuing to grow. So not too much in the player interviews, but two guys on opposite ends of the spectrum: Dickerson offensive line, Raekwon Davis defensive line, a different fashion fit between the two.
Stephen, I did not see Nick Saban's presser for this week. Was that on Monday or Tuesday? Was that today as well?
Well, Nick Saban was Monday. The players were today.
Okay. What gems did we hear from the head coach this week?
Well, number one, he did praise Jeremy Pruitt in the point of, Tennessee, despite the fact that it's 2-4 on the year, had two games that could have actually really won, the Florida game, and then on top of that, the Georgia matchup, where the backup quarterback Maurer went out there and really, gave this offense a shot in the arm after going Potter went down, and really displayed some moxie in terms of completing passes to Marquez Conaway and also Jawan Jennings at wide receiver. So Saban understands that despite the fact that the team in Tennessee is 2-4, it's a rivalry game. Jeremy Pruitt, trying to get this group very much to improve. And despite the fact that Pruitt did not play on Saban's noontime basketball league that Saban had here at Alabama, still I have the respect for a man that came through this program. So he's getting these guys prepared to give their best effort against the Volunteers this weekend.
So Jeremy Pruitt chose not to participate in the noon basketball league.
Did not participate in that noon league.
I would think that maybe Jeremy Pruitt would be a decent post player, at least for rebounding and some defensive charges, that sort of type of play.
Well, David always would talk about how Kirby Smart was a great shooter. He talked about how, Jimbo Fisher was a guy that could play defense. He could pop a little sky hook here and there. So he gave kudos to those guys. When it came down to Pruitt here, he's like, Pruitt, not the big basketball guy.
Okay. Nuts and bolts football guy. That's what they needed Tennessee, certainly, to turn around that program. I'm trying to figure out how Nick Saban was trying to sell Tennessee as a possible win against Georgia, and understanding that, I know that they got off to a great start, scored the early touchdown, led 14-10, but in a 43-14 game, I think that one was pretty much in no doubt after halftime. Regardless, we got Stephen M. Smith on the line from Touchdown Alabama. We encourage you to jump over there, touchdownalabama.com. Check out all the content as we head down the home stretch with Alabama taking on their traditional rival from the SEC Eastern Division, Tennessee. So if you're not familiar out there with SEC or really ACC scheduling, they have one designated rival from the other division. For Alabama, that's Tennessee. It's long-standing. So if you're new to college football, if you're a young fan and have no idea why would Alabama be playing Tennessee every year, it is a huge, enormous, long-standing SEC rivalry. So let me give you the floor, Stephen, to kind of give us a feel for what this rivalry means, regardless of how lopsided it's been in recent years.
Well, Alabama fans dislike Auburn, but they hate Tennessee. This is a brewing hatred that started with the likes of legendary head coach for Alabama, Paul Bear Bryant, and legendary head coach for Tennessee, General Robert Nealon. So this goes back a long, long ways, and both schools have just have tremendous hatred, and the hatred builds off from there to when Tennessee had Philip Farmer as the head coach. Of course, Alabama was going between Gene Stallings and Mike DuBose and Mike Shula, Dennis Franchione, and the list of coaches record off. I just ripped off right there, but it goes back a long ways. The pumping of cigars goes back a long way, so I'm probably not going to pump a cigar this weekend. But it's a rivalry dipped into it's grown man football, it's long-waged hatred, and it's, you respect this team, but you really can't stand this team.
Got Stephen M. Smith on the line from touchdownalabama.com. I knew you would do it justice in regards to describing this Tennessee-Alabama rivalry. So I was down in the SEC, as you well know, Stephen, covering SEC football from the early to mid-'90s up until 2000. So I was covering the same ground you were, going to Alabama practice, going to the facility for interviews each week. And at that point, the script was flipped during the Peyton Manning years into T. Martin. Tennessee dominated. I don't know that I saw Alabama win a game against Tennessee, and obviously that is completely reversed here about 20 years later. The other thing that I recall from player interviews and the coaches in particular during that time, week after week after week, talking to Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and Alabama, is that the bigger the opponent, the more the conversation swung to that opponent. So if it was a MAC school, an FCS team, the focus was on what we need to do to get better. The better the team, the more concentration and focus and rhetoric toward the other team. They've got this guy and that guy, and we need to look out for that. And wow, they just had a great game against this opponent. So was there much respect, do you think, on the player level given to the Tennessee Vols?
I think it's just more of going off of what can Alabama do to get better, Mark. There wasn't much talk about Tennessee, with the exception of it's a rivalry game. It's important to the fans, it's important to the community and the people around the Tuscaloosa landscape and the Birmingham landscape on top of that. But it was more so what does Alabama need to do? What do we need to do offensively, defensively, on special teams to get better, to play our best football? It's a rivalry game. We understand that. We get that. We know what's expected in this game. But for us being Alabama, what do we have to do with all three phases of football to put our best game out there?
Stephen Smith on the line from touchdownalabama.com. Stephen, when you look at this team, and I watched the A&M game, the people that get on the line and talk to me, the fans out there, whether they just be general college football fans and like other teams, or they're Alabama fans, they do not seem to be impressed with this team. I watched the Texas A&M game. I am giving some level of respect for Texas A&M, despite having not the season that I anticipated. It's still a top 15 roster in regards to talent. And I thought Alabama chased Kellen Mond all over the place. I thought they generally locked down on those receivers. They hit the big plays on offense. Sure, they made some mistakes, but they're playing a very talented team on the road. I was impressed with the performance. I thought it was the most complete performance to date. Just kind of your thoughts about the Alabama performance against A&M.
Well, first off, Mark, taking what a lot of people say with a grain of salt, and I go back to something I mentioned to you previously. A lot of fans, they look at this as, well, this is not the old school suffocating Bama that we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing Bama just shut teams completely down. They're not crossing the 50-yard line. They're not scoring. This program pitching shutouts. Well, due to the evolution of college football and how the game is evolving even more so now, especially on offense, those days are long gone. So when you look at this Alabama team against Texas A&M, I actually took quite a few things from this matchup. Number one, you brought up the defense. This was the best that this pass rush has looked this season, especially when you have a healthy Terrell Lewis attacking the quarterback, a healthy Anthony Jennings attacking the quarterback. Then you add in a Christian Barmore, a redshirt freshman. He's going to get better and better attacking the quarterback. Then there's Christopher Allen, among other guys that really just roughed up Kellen Mond. There were a number of times I looked at Jimbo Fisher as if to say, can you please take this man out? Can you please spare this man from having a trip to the hospital because he was running for his life out there? So the pass rush was definitely up to par in this matchup. The second thing I took from this game, definitely the offensive line. I was very proud of the offensive line being able to create opportunities in the run game for Najee Harris to have his second 100-yard game, Tua Tagovailoa to have another matchup where he's accounting for 3+ touchdowns through the air. I was happy with what I saw in terms of Jalen Waddle on special teams, in terms of Alabama being able to block punts with Alicante on special teams. So it was about 3 to 4 things that I took from this game that were big positives moving forward. No, this is not the same defense in Alabama history that people's parents and grandparents were used to watching, but it's a group that's getting better. It's a group that's playing with a lot of young guys in very, very key spots, and they have to get that experience. But from what I saw, this is a group that is trending forward.
Tennessee coming off one of its most impressive showings of the season, defeating Mississippi State at home 20-10. Obviously, the defense and giving up just 10 points was stellar in that matchup. They did sustain some injuries to some key defensive stalwarts in that matchup. The quarterback situation, Jared Garantano, entrenched as the starter. A few of us thought that he would be replaced at any point this season, completing 64% of his passes, 8 touchdowns and 4 picks. But they went with Brian Maurer last game. He was knocked out. Garantano came back in. Was there any talk in regards to the preparation for 2 quarterbacks or what the situation is there defensively in preparing for the Vols?
Alabama to prepare for both guys. I gotta give huge kudos to Jared Garantano in this game. I mean, this is somebody that's been used to. This is somebody that knows how to play tough, how to deal with injuries, how to combat some injuries, how to help out somebody else that's dealing with the same type of injuries as you saw when Maurer took the hit. The first guy that was on that field was Garantano, understanding, hey, brother, I've been there. I know what you're going through. Let me try to help you the best way I can. And when Garantano got back on the field against Mississippi State, played lights out, played a good football game, showcased that leadership for his team. And that's something that Pruitt is going to look for him to do moving forward because the Volunteers need that voice in the locker room, that guy that can steady the ship and get this team to understand, yes, we're 2-4, but the opportunity for bowl eligibility, it's right there. We still have a chance to get somewhere to that 6-6 line, and it's going to start with Jared Garantano lighting that ship a little bit from the quarterback position. Alabama's preparing for both guys, but I was really impressed with the way that Garantano's been able to battle back and fight back despite the injuries that he has been through.
Understanding, again, getting back to the news conference setup and situation there at Alabama, Nick Saban obviously holds court, and there's a bit of a fear factor, intimidation factor amongst some of the media. There's certainly beat writers and yourself that are accustomed to covering the team on a daily basis, and your faces that show up around the facility on a regular basis and are there each and every week. where there's a bit of a comfort level there in talking to Saban and the players. And I'm sure some of that intimidation factor for some media filters down to the players. What I'm getting at, Stephen, here is, does anybody dare bring up the word LSU, and if Saban's paying any attention to what's going on in Baton Rouge?
Nobody has brought up the word MSU yet, or the team MSU, but the players, they are aware of what's going on in Death Valley. I'm pretty sure the coaching staff is aware of what Coach O and the job that he's done, the job Joe Burrow and this entire offense has done. I know defensively they're trying to get some players back from injuries and clean up some things in the secondary, but the people here in Tuscaloosa are well aware of what's going on down there at Tiger Stadium.
All right, Stephen, we always love the conversation with you. And again, encourage everyone to check out touchdownalabama.com for the very best in Alabama sports coverage. And of course, football is front and center. Stephen, we appreciate you joining us. And again, the content is first rate, and enjoy talking to you, especially anytime, of course, but especially after you get those player interviews and we can get that slant on the Alabama storyline headed toward Tennessee. Thank you so much, Stephen. You have a great week.
No problem, Mark, as always. Thank you.